Welcome back. You're still watching KIVUMBI2022. My name is Fred Ndimuli. We continue with this coverage. Now, in about a week's time, the IEBC will be releasing to us the final details of the contents of the voters' register. How many people have deceased? How many others are to be expunged from that list? But we now want to take this conversation further. Despite having a voters' register whose integrity has been checked and confirmed, what about the contents of that register? The millions of voters, are they aware of the obligation come August 9th? Are you aware? And are you able, confident and ready to meet that obligation? That is a conversation we now want to have with my panelists. Allow me to introduce my panelists beginning on my left. We do have Collins Olwoch. He is an advocate and economic analyst, a member of the Africa Youth Leadership Forum. Now, this ambitious young leader is a former student president at Riara University. He is currently the chairperson of Riara University Alumni. Next to Collins, we do have Mercy Masila Achola. Mercy is an author, a leadership expert, a member of the Mkenya Daima Steering Committee. She is the current chair for the services sector at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers and is a member of the Women in Manufacturing Steering Committee. Good to have you on this panel.
Thank
you.
And
last but definitely not least, we do have Dr. Vimal Shah. He is the chairperson of Kenya Daima Steering Committee. He'll be telling us more about what exactly Kenya Daima is. Vimal Shah is one of Kenya's and East Africa's eminent and most respected business leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana to Kivumbi 2022. Let's start with you, Vimal, and of course, kindly help us understand what exactly Kenya Daima is, how long it has been there, and how does it come into play when we talk about elections, even before we come to the specifics of the 2022 election.
So, thank you very much, Fred, for having us on board. I think Kenya Daima is a non-partisan, multi-stakeholder platform, formed again in 2012 by the private sector, but bringing in together the business community, the religious leaders, the civil society, the media, the youth, and also the women leaders, right? Coming together with the primary purpose of inspiring peaceful elections and a smooth transition of leadership. So, which is very critical for our socioeconomic stability. But I think also we envision at Kenya Daima to be inclusive, to say let's all come together, and really we envision a prosperous future and a much better future for a country that we strive in. And we want to look for good governance, good leadership, public accountability, and also an efficient and transparent system which evokes hope, confidence and optimism amongst Kenyans.
And we'll come to the nitty-gritties of that, because it almost sounds very ideal. The aspirations we have, and I'm sure this is what every Kenyan shares in terms of what we aspire to become and what we even aspire to achieve with this election. Let's now talk to Mercy, and you're also a member of the steering committee, Kenya Daima Steering Committee. And let's talk about the specifics about this election in 2022. Yes, the steering committee has been in existence for the last 10 years. That means you've overseen at least two elections, 2013, 2017. Now, 2022 is only about a bit over 50 days to go to the election day. What are the specifics and what exactly are we looking at in as far as Kenya Daima Steering Committee is concerned? What are the unique aspects of this election that you're seeking to address?
Okay, thank you very much, Fred, for having us here this evening. And to answer your question, as Kenya Daima Steering Committee, our mission is very simple. We want to engage with all stakeholders. And when we talk about all stakeholders, it begins with all the institutions like IEBC, the Registrar's Party, that are one way or the other involved in making the election process successful. We are working also to engage civil society, youth, private sector, which we are part of, religious bodies, and even yourself and myself, Fred, because at the end of the day we are saying ni wajibu wetu, ni wajibu wangu, meaning that each and every one of us, whether as an institution or as an individual, we have a role to play to ensure that Kenya will and can have peaceful elections and transition. Now, for each institution, we're saying, can you respect the law and do what you're supposed to do? As a voter, I have a right to vote. I have a right to be peaceful during that voting process. And where exactly you find after elections violence coming out, we're saying this talk of saying let's go and protect votes, that's not the role of you and I as a voter. Every party is supposed to appoint an agent in every polling station. We have police force there whose work is to ensure peace and securing of the ballot boxes so that everything goes right. IEBC has a role to count the votes and to announce them. When it comes to if a winner and a loser and you feel that you have not won or you're not happy with the results, there is something in our constitution, a mechanism that you can go and seek a solution. So we are saying, each and every one of us, ni wajibu wangu, let's do what you're supposed to do, and if we do that and we adhere to that, then Kenya is going to have a peaceful election and a peaceful transition.
And of course, that's what everyone aspires to, and it's the ideal situation. But let's come to the reality on the ground. And Collins, you represent a demographic that has been used mostly during elections to perpetuate most of the vices during election time. Now, these are the same people you're trying to talk to through this initiative. Is it any different this time round? We've seen and we've experienced a lot of voter apathy, even when it comes to registration of new voters. The expectation by the IEBC was that at least now we would have at least 4.5 million new younger voters. They did not get to that number. Yet we see a lot of young people still get involved in elections without even getting registered, but probably in a negative way. How do you think 50 days to elections, 55 days to elections, how do you think we are faring?
One, thank you so much for this opportunity. I agree. For the longest time, the role of the young people has been being used to perpetrate violence. But with Kenya Daima, we are changing the narrative. And you're asking is there anything for us? There's a lot in stake for us as young people. For the first time in the history of this country, we are facing a youth bulge, to mean that we have a very huge percentage of young people who are not employed. And this is further encumbered by the pandemic that we have, the COVID pandemic. So at this point, Kenya Daima is coming and telling us as young people, stop being used, be part of the agenda. Be part of the agenda. Talk about the political pillar, the social pillar, the economic pillar. What is it for you as a young person? And that's what we are doing in Kenya Daima, together with AYLF, Africa Youth Leadership Forum, which is a branch of Kenya Daima under the auspices of Africa Youth Leadership Forum. On political pillar, for us is to look at the leaders that we're having. We want to vet them. We want to look at their qualifications. What have they studied for? Now, we are being faced with a situation whereby we have aspirants or people who are putting themselves out there, seeking positions, and then you're finding out that they don't have qualifications. They have not studied. But then take a cross-check and look at the young people. The young people have studied, they have papers, but they're the ones who do not have they're the ones who do not have jobs. For the social pillar, what you're talking about is, what about the transition? What is your role as a young person? After you voted, what should you do? Should you stand around the polling centers trying to guard your votes? We are being faced with a situation whereby we are likely to face a huge voter apathy because of this dogma that has been created, which is called deep state, that someone is saying, after I voted, how is my vote going to count? After all, there are a bunch of young people, sorry, not young people, there are a bunch of few individuals who lock themselves in a boardroom and decide this is the individual who is going to take position. So young people are facing that. We are facing that voter apathy because we are asking ourselves, what is in it for me as a voter? Why should I vote? So under the social pillar, we are just trying to rally young people around and tell them, your vote still counts. It's your duty, it's your civil duty to come out and vote. And finally, on the economical pillar, we're just trying to test these manifestos. For the first time in the history of this country, we are having a politics of nothingness. To mean the manifestos that people are producing or the platforms that people are running are seeking office under, there's nothing tangible. If you try and ask them how are they going to implement what they are telling us, they are going to stammer. They're going to stammer. They don't have the framework of implementing what they are saying. So for the first time, we as young people, we are doing that. And finally, we are vetting people. If you're supporting a young candidate, then we are on board with you. Even in Nairobi, if you are supporting a young candidate, then we're on board with you.
But Collins, does being young in and of itself guarantee that probably you are the best leader just by age?
Absolutely not, yeah?
Yes.
Leadership is not about age. We've heard even the president saying, when he appointed the octogenarian, His Excellency Mudia Wori, saying a lot of young people have not produced anything.
Yes.
That the ones that have been entrusted with leadership. You know, and this is where Kenya Daima is coming in. The mandate of Kenya Daima is not ending at the voting. We are carrying it forward to the impact. We've had a lot of young people who've been elected in parliament. Can we sit and rate them? Can we have a rate card and say, Honorable so-and-so brought this bill that
has done this much.
He has done this much.
Okay.
The representative of young people in parliament has done this much. So that we can rate them vis-a-vis the number of the, not old, vis-a-vis the other representation. Okay,
Vimal, the choice of leadership is key in this election, because that's the whole point. We want to elect proper leaders. Yet that process has already begun through the nominations process, through the people who have presented themselves for election, through this vetting process by the IEBC, which is continuing even up to today. Yet we already are seeing the problems. Even with the people who are being cleared, some of the people presenting themselves have issues already in court. They have integrity questions hanging over their heads, yet they're still getting clearance. The choice of leadership, don't you think that probably with 56 days to go to the election day, that probably we've lost direction to some extent with the kind of people you're seeing getting clearance, even by the IEBC?
I don't believe so, Fred. I think the important point is it's not about 50 days or 55 days. It's the last day. Because when you vote is on August 9th. And before that, even if it's one day before that, you could change your mind. So the question is, and that's what Mercy talked about, it's wajibu wangu. Je, wajibu wangu ni nini? What is my responsibility? My responsibility, first and foremost, is to vote. Just like Colin said, we need to get everybody to say, fine, let me go and vote. And that's my right, but it's also my responsibility. Number two, I need to do something we call kagua mbele ya kuchagua, which means let's check whom are we bringing in there. They made promises, they're telling us this. Are they really having personal integrity? So it's not that I've left it to IEBC to vet and all that stuff. They're doing their vet of saying who's credible, who's not credible, to go and stand. But now it's up to every one of us as citizens of Kenya to say, let me check these people out and see, do they have the integrity, do they have the competency, and are they suitable? Again, what they promise and what they will do. Do they have the means and the wherewithal to say, really make it happen? Number three, I think important is, do I trust them? Do I trust what they're telling me? It's not just about trusting me and my tribe and say, because it's my people, they should come in. It's not about ethnicity anymore. I think it's more about who's the best person, who's fit for purpose. The purpose being leadership. Who will provide me the leadership where I want to go? I mean, if you look at today's youngsters, they don't believe in ethnicity, they don't believe in all these other things. They want action. On the ground, I want to see, are you doing something for us or not? And therefore, whichever leader at any age coming in, wajibu wangu ni, let's go check them out. The institutions are doing their job, but my job at the end is the citizen. The citizen is the one who puts the vote in there, and therefore every vote counts.
Okay. And of course, the biggest challenge with that is that our voting patterns as a country has always been problematic. That voting is purely based on ethnic considerations. Now, when it comes to this, because surely we're talking about basing our choice of leaders probably on the provisions of Chapter 6 of the Constitution on integrity, leadership ethos, and such like things. But when it comes to that vis-a-vis tribalism, how does Kenya Daima handle that? Because it is a reality.
Oh, good question, Fred. But what I want to say, and I think I'm speaking from a place of progression forward. Vimal has just said young people now that we are seeing, the youth, are not really standing on tribal lines. For them, it's about advancement. Can I get a job? Is the job reliable? And I think this is the beginning of the future that we are going to see as a country. That we are going to see less and less of voting based on tribal or ethnicity, and more on terms of where is the country heading in terms of progression. I want to also add that the leadership that will form Kenya, we didn't get here in one day. Neither are we going to get out of here in one day. So the steps towards moving to voting, because like now we're talking about high cost of living. I go to the fuel pump. It does not matter what my ethnicity is, or yours, or his, or his. We're all paying the same price. And so we need this wajibu wangu we're talking about, the vetting we need to talk, and what Collins was saying in terms of interrogating the manifestos that are being put forward to us. We all need to remember that at the end of the day, whoever sits, whether it's MCA, because now we know MCA is playing a very big role, whether it's the woman rep, whether it's the MP, governor, to the president, can you interrogate what they are telling you? Because at the end of the day, in my neighborhood, my MCA is responsible for my road. He has an MCA, you have an MCA. So you have to begin to think in that process.
Yeah.
And that's part of the interrogation we're saying as Mkenya Daima. Only you can do for yourself.
But after 10 years of being in existence, the question is, have we, how would you rate the achievement of that, the understanding of the role of the voter, the obligation that he or she has, according to what you're saying? Because yes, as I said earlier, it is the ideal situation, but yes, the reality on the ground is different. People, yes, they may listen to all these manifestos, but when it comes down to voting is, what is the name of that leader?
Remember, I said change is a process. If you look at the inception of Mkenya Daima, and the reason why Mkenya Daima was created was out of the violence that we saw out of 2007, post-election violence. Now, in 10 years since then, 2013, 2017, with the Mkenya Daima intervention, and even the signing off that Mkenya Daima makes to the presidential candidates and other leaders to sign off and say the peace pledge, I pledge to have peace, we are seeing positive strides. Are we fully there? No. Can we do better? Yes. And so the initiative of Mkenya Daima is an ongoing process. We're not yet there, but the idea is, can we get better with every election?
Okay.
And we are looking to raise the bar this election than we were in 2017. Okay. And then we keep moving forward.
Now we're talking about the youth because it's a huge demographic, and you mentioned the fact that we're experiencing a youth bulge, and hopefully they will take part in the election come August 9th. They're already taking part in various other ways in campaigns and all that. But in as far as communicating the role, the obligations to the youth, are they really listening? Do you feel that they're getting a better understanding of what they should be doing during this election cycle?
Some are, some aren't. One, lack of adequate information is an indictment on the role of IEBC. Because one, the IEBC needs to do voter sensitization and to inform the voters what is their duty as the voters, And I think, in my view, they are lagging behind on that end. But from Kenya Daima, what we are doing, we are changing the platform of our politics in this country. For the longest time, as you've observed, our politics is hinged on the tribal affiliations. We will be rallying each other and saying, we as Luos, this is our chance to have a Luo governor, or we as Kisis, this is our chance to have a Kisi, whatever, MCA and all that. But we are changing the narrative, and what you're saying, we are giving you 3 pillars and telling you, can you vote your governor under this pillar of social pillar, or under the economic pillar? What is the economic blueprint? What is it for you, after they've gotten into office? What is the political platform that they are leading you under? If you're going to vote in a governor who is not educated, and you are educated as a voter, I mean, he's not going to be in charge of your funds in an adequate, in an efficient manner. I hope you're getting what I'm saying. Yes. So for the young people, we are trying to demystify this for them. We are trying to bring for them these 3 pillars and telling them. And you see, where there's a lot of craze around Wajakoya, a lot of young people are identifying with him because no one is talking about his tribe. People are talking about what he's saying. A lot of people now, we are telling a lot of young people, rate your leaders among these 3 pillars. Look through them. What are they proposing to do for you? Is that their role? If it's not their role, how is it practical for them to be able to do that? For the longest time, people require the members of parliament to go and construct roads for them. Whereas the roles of members of parliament is legislation, oversight, and representation. There's nothing like development under that. But these are the things that you're telling young people. These are things you're telling young people. You're telling them, for the presidential candidate, don't see it as a seat that is so above you. This is a seat that it should be able to impact your lives. The leaders that we're getting into office are going to change our lives in the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, I'm going to be 30-something. How is my life going to be different from what it is right now? What would I want to see in the next 5 years? That is what you're telling young people. Most of them are buying.
And to get to this level of understanding that we all aspire to, because Mercy has mentioned that this is a it's a progressive process. It takes time. We are 56 days to election day. There are things that probably you had hoped to achieve over the last 10 years or so. You know you've not been able to achieve them. You wish we were at a better place. So kindly point to us some of the challenges that you've experienced in trying to get us to that destination where we understand our roles, we understand how we should take part in the electoral process.
I think first and foremost was the challenge of getting people to come together to say, fine, we can make a difference. And I think this is where typically people come and say, what can I do? I'm a single person, I have one vote, what difference will that make? And I think the important thing is to inspire people to become champions of Mkenya Daima. So through the religious leaders, through the civic societies, through the private sector, we're actually getting this message going across to say, you know what, every single vote counts, every single person counts. And if we do the right thing now, for the next 5 years, we will have a good leadership. We'll have transparency. We'll have a lot of the ills that are there going away. But again, we're dynamic, right? So civic education has suffered. I mean, it hasn't been as rampant as it should be. But hey, does it mean that 56 days and we can't do anything? It doesn't. It means even in one day, you can actually educate people and really get a message across. So this is where the inspiration comes from, to say, you know what, let me do the right thing at any given time, number one. Number two, I think the first thing is not about me and my haki yetu. It's about wajibu wangu. What's my responsibility to this country? Before I go in and get inspired with notes for votes, and those sort of influences that people bring in. Again, can we influence their mindsets to say, hey, let's check this out? Number two, false promises, fake news. I think that's another thing that we're talking to people. Fact check yourself and see what are the realities. When people promise you the world and they don't deliver, we're also telling even the youth and everybody else, check even after they're elected and say, are they living up to it? If they're not living up to it, question them. I think this whole culture of, we can't question leaders, once they've gone, they come back to us 4 years later or 5 years later, seeking our votes, needs to go. Okay. And holding people accountable, transparent, to say, you said this, go do it. And if you can't do it, let's find a way out. So this is where engagement will come in. I think this is where the whole thing about nitatenda wajibu wangu comes in. To say, fine, wajibu wangu is to hold people accountable and hold them responsible. Number one, free and fair elections. We want to hold IEBC to account. And we say, look, you've been mandated to do something, get it done. We want to hold the NCIC and all the rest to say, hey, you promised this, give it to us, because it's all about making Kenya better. Number three, I think the important point is, after August 9th, on the 11th, when everything is done, we're still brothers and sisters. And we cannot fight and say this and that. I think it's important to say, fine, let's take that in our own hands. Not to say that we're going to go and fight on the streets. It's about a peaceful transition and say, fine, come what may. Again, it's our responsibility to choose the right leadership, because for the next 5 years, if there's apathy, like Colin said, by saying apathy and saying, I will not vote, you're actually making a choice to say, I abstain. Then you've got no right to complain. So this is what we're trying to say. Go out and do the right thing right now, because this is the time.
Okay. Now, before August 9th, the Kenyan voter is called upon to interrogate some of the promises, as Vimal rightly put it. And some of these promises are based on or contained in the manifestos that we're now seeing being launched. One was launched this past week. Another one will be launched by the end of this month. There have been pronouncements by some of the presidential candidates now that of their expectations and what they hope to change for the Kenyan person. Even at the county level, most candidates for governor are launching and expressing their hope and ideas to the electorate. So the Kenyan voter is called upon to interrogate this. Do you think that the Kenyan voter is capable and has the time or the interest to really interrogate what these promises are.
Okay, your question is, first, is the Kenyan voter capable? Do they have the time or the interest? Let me start with, are they capable? I believe yes. Capability is something we all have. If we know MCA, what's the role of an MCA? By the time I'm going in, and I'm using myself as an example. In the last elections, I did not care to know who my MCA was. I went and voted either based on a party that I thought or something. But then I learned what? First and foremost, the county government, through governor and how much money is sitting in counties, that my MCA actually gets an allocation, which impacts my neighborhood road, lighting, street lighting in my neighborhood, and security. So I am much wiser this time around. I'm saying I need to know who is going to be my MCA. What are they promising? Because right now, they're accessible to all of us. It's very easy to find them. Because once they get in, then you know what to hold them accountable to. So it starts there. So the capability, yes, each and every one of us is there. Do we have the time? Now we have to decide. We have 50 how many days to go?
56.
Would I rather spend that interrogating the leaders I'm about to elect, or will I be ready to suffer another 5 years? Make your choice. It's all about choices. And the same thing goes with interest. I have to determine, do I want to be interested in becoming part of the change? Because as Vimal said, if I don't go and vote, and they vote, you vote, and I didn't vote, I have no right to raise my voice to complain. Whether it's from the pump price or the cost of living, I have no voice because I already chose not to vote. So I have to live with whatever others will choose. So the three things, capability, time, and interest, you have to make the choice for yourself.
On the issue of interest, probably it's based on the fact that we've seen these manifestos, colleagues, over the years. We've seen very many people launch manifestos, and probably they even get the opportunity to actually roll out the manifesto because you've been given the mandate by the voter. But after 5-6 years, the report is usually a very sorry state of affairs. And hence, probably the young person this time is asking himself or herself, should I really listen to these promises by these people? Why can't I just go and vote in a different way based on a different understanding?
Totally. You know, a young person is in a very tight situation being in this country. Because one, I look at a lot of, this is a season of political madness. A lot of campaigns are done during the weekdays. You see a lot of stadiums being so full. The people who are filling those stadiums are young people. To tell you, those are people who are supposed to be at work, but they're not at work because they do not have jobs. So they're filling stadiums because that is the only thing they can do, waiting for the we said votes for the handouts, yeah, for 100 shilling or 200 shilling. Something else, look at the land issue in this country. I was joking with my friend the other day, asking him, do you think young people will ever come to own land, even in Nairobi? At what expense, at what cost are they going to come and own land? Which land? At that, which land for that matter? A young person is someone who is very inflicted in this country. That's why we're inviting the young people in this election to do a vetting sort of exercise. The people who we are being presented with, who are seeking positions of leadership, they are people who've been there before. Most of these people promised us a lot of things last time. So this is an invitation for a young person to say, last time they were in that position, they promised us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. This time round, they're coming back to us telling us we want to be able to do 1, 2, 3. They have forgotten what they promised us last time, or they have revamped what they promised. They are coming back anew with the same old ideas. So what we are saying is, we are going to have a scorecard. Last time you promised this, you never delivered this, so it is my responsibility as a young person. It's my responsibility as someone under Mkenya Daima. Why we are calling ourselves Mkenya Daima? We would have chosen to call ourselves Nairobi Daima or Mjaluo Daima. It's because we are realizing that all of us are in this mess together. all of us are going to be bound together in the next 5 years. If we, the process of recalling a member of parliament or the process of recalling our leaders is so tedious. So it's an exercise that we don't want to engage in. So we know that now we are bound together, so that the leaders that we pick now, are they going to be there for us in these 5 years? Are they going to walk with us in this journey? Are they going to deliver? Are they in touch with what we are feeling? The cost of living has skyrocketed. It has been compounded by COVID-19. What are they going to do about it? A lot of them are promising us a lot of things, but we know the budget has already been passed. They are coming into office under the regime of this budget that has already been passed. Are their promises going to be practical in light of the budget that has been passed in the next 100 days, let's say?
Yet the promises include such promises like I will do this within the next 30 days after I get into office. But Bwana Vimal, there's a question about probably the constitution of the Kenya Daima platform, because it's multi-stakeholder, as you said, and we'll get to answer this question after the break. But allow me just to ask it. How do you marry that? Because there are different expectations. There are faith-based organizations, business leaders like yourself, the youth, the women, and all these people. How do you marry all these aspirations and expectations and still come out with a proper aspiration when it comes to election day? But you'll get to answer this after the break. You're still watching KIVUMBI 2022.